Welcome back to the channel, guys. So today I'm going to be working on the SS, and I got a part in a while back that I'm really excited to finally get installed. And if you guys watched my previous video, you've already seen what this part is and what it looks like. So in this box, I got a steering wheel. So I will be taking out the old steering wheel and removing the airbag and putting the new airbag in with the new steering wheel that I just got in. So I will be showing you guys how to do that. So I already have the steering wheel turned upside down. That's the number one thing that you got to do. And the reason why we have to turn the steering wheel upside down is because we have to access some of the holes back here. Now it's really hard for me to show you, but let me see if I can stick the camera back here. So the camera won't really focus, but right here, there's a hole right there. And then there's one on the other side. And we essentially have to stick something through in order to release the rods back there that hold the airbag in place. So we got to push those out of the way so that way we can get the airbag out. And then after that, I will be using, I believe it is a T50 Torx Bit. Now, I went ahead and picked up this whole set from Amazon. I've actually been needing this for a while, but I picked it up. I think it was like $18, and it came with all of these. I will add a link down in the description if you need it. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, before we start touching anything with the steering wheel and the airbag, it's really important that we disconnect the battery, make sure there's no power. So back here, I would just be disconnecting the negative side of the battery. Okay, so now that I got the battery disconnected, we can move forward with trying to take off the airbag. And like I mentioned earlier, there's these holes in the back where you have to shove something back in there to get the airbag to release. So I'm gonna be using like this Allen key, and I'm gonna stick it through the hole. And I believe once it's in there, you got to push this way, so that way we can get that rod to release the airbag. This out. Like I said, I'm gonna be using this, putting it through the hole back here. All right, so I think I got this side to release. There we go. All right, so let me grab the camera. So, like I said, you got to put your tool in through the back. Once you got your tool in there, notice that what I'm doing is I'm sticking it in at an angle. So essentially from the center, I'm pointing out, I'm coming in, pointing out, and then I'm going to go like this, pull this way, and you can see that that rod right there starts to move. And once you get it far enough, it should be able to release one side of the airbags, and then you're just gonna repeat the process on the other side. So like I said, the tool comes in like this, and then I'm pushing this way to get this rod to move out of the way. That will essentially cause the airbag to release. All right, so once we got the airbag out, the next thing I got to do is unplug these two connectors from the airbag. We got to pull up on this orange piece up. There we go. Okay. Then after that, you should be able to pull up. All right, so I got that to pull up. Okay, so we got those disconnected. Now we got the airbag out. So we'll put this off to the side. So next I'm gonna go ahead and try to take off the trim piece and the buttons right here. So I believe all of this comes out in one piece, and then once we got this piece out, there's some Torx bits that hold the these buttons in place. So I got a couple of trim removal tools that I'm gonna be using. So we gotta be real careful here not to break off any of the tabs. So I'm gonna be alternating from this side and this side. And once I got these two sides released, then I'll try to release it from the bottom. go. Okay, this side. I think what made this a little bit easier is sticking something like this in right here. You can see there's a tab or a clip. Let's see if I can get it in. All right, and then just using this to try to pry up on the trim, and once you got it far enough, you can kind of use your fingers to pull out. There we go. These two sides are almost ready to come out. All right, there we go. All right, so the trim has been released here. We can see it's ready to come out. The only thing that's really holding it in place right now is the connectors right here. So the ones that go to the buttons. So to get these to disconnect, there's actually a tab on the back side over here too. And essentially what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna push down on the tab and at the same time pull out. Okay, so I got this one to come out, and just repeat the process on this side. All right. Okay. So now you got the trim with the buttons out, and the buttons are going to be the ones I'm going to be transferring over to the new steering wheel. Now, I still need to disconnect the paddle shifter, so that's the other thing I got to do. So for me, it's a little bit more work. If you got a manual car, you won't have to worry about this. Looks like we have a Torx screw, which I believe it's going to be a T25, and then there's also a connector here for the paddle shifters. I think what I'm going to try to do first is take off this Torx screw, and then after that maybe I should have a little bit more clearance or access to actually unplug that connector. Check this out. Okay, so I was able to slide the paddle shifter out. You can see the connector right there. Let me see if I can get it to right there. Okay, I'm just gonna push down on that and disconnect the paddle shifter. See that right there? There we go. So now that we got the paddle shifters disconnected, I'm gonna pull the cable through. All right, let's see here. And I think I gotta either cut that zip tie or pull it through, because essentially the wiring harness, all of this stuff stays in here. It's just the steering wheel that comes out. These cables right here, they were being held in by the zip tie and pushed through there. I ended up just cutting it. I tried to get this back side of this special kind of zip tie to release from this opening, but I just couldn't, and I didn't want to risk damaging the wire, so I just snipped the back side of the zip tie, and I can always use a new zip tie if needed. So now that we have all these cables pretty much loose, I can proceed with taking off this huge Torx screw. So I got my impact here, this guy right here. It's a small impact, but let's see if it can get this screw out. If not, then I will be using my bigger impact. All right, got my extension on. Let's get this baby out. All right, so I got my big impact here. All right, so it's out. Now, just pull on the steering wheel out slowly. feed this through. So on the back side of the steering wheel, there's the clock spring, I believe, and the connectors right here too. So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug these. Okay, so I got the steering wheel disconnected. So this is pretty straightforward. Just push down on the tab right here and then pull out. And then for these, I didn't unplug it here. So these are the connectors that go and plug into the back of the airbag. I just fed them through the steering wheel opening right there, have them come out, and I'm just gonna leave this sitting right here. Now I am gonna have to transfer some stuff over to the new steering wheel, and I'll get there in a sec. Let me just put this one down, but let me show you what the new one looks like. And some of you might have already guessed. That's right, I went with the carbon fiber steering wheel. So these are the paddle shifters. Compare that to the OEM paddle shifters. And then the steering wheel. Yeah, look at that. Compared to this one, you already know I had to go with a carbon fiber steering wheel. So the good thing is I wanted to get the trim pieces, all of this stuff carbon fiber. I've looked online and I talked to various people, and it seems like these steering wheels, at least the ones with the paddle shifter interface, they're getting harder and harder to find. I did find multiple carbon fiber steering wheels, and actually you can customize them, you can get them however you want, but a lot of them did not have the holes back here for the paddle shifters. So I wanted to keep the paddle shifters, at least in my car. I use that quite a bit whenever I'm out racing. So I had to have my paddle shifters. So on this one, I went obviously with carbon fiber on the steering wheel and the trim pieces. And then with the white stitching and this white mark. Why? Well, it's because the car is white as well. And why carbon fiber? Well, the hood is carbon fiber. The lip is carbon fiber. And these side vents are carbon fiber as well. Yeah, the car's pretty dirty. I need to wash it. And I was thinking about getting the trunk carbon fiber as well. So let me know what you think. If you think the carbon fiber trunk will look good on the car, let me know and I'll try to see if I can get my hands on it. But yeah, man, I'm pretty happy with how this looks. So like I said, I am gonna have to transfer some stuff over. It looks like I will have to move this over and a couple of other things, but I'll let you guys know what all I end up transferring over to this steering wheel. I need to go ahead and pry this off. So again, I'm just gonna stick my plastic trim removal tools in here, try to push up on it, and then I will transfer this over here. Now, taking a look at this, there are some differences with what they sent me. It looks like here, these are held in by some Phillips screws versus over here, they're held in by some Torx screws. I just need to transfer the buttons here, I guess this part. So I'm gonna have to pry these out and then put them over here. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and take this off so that way it's easier for me to work with this piece because I don't wanna run the risk of breaking this. So it looks like this is gonna be like a T20. Yes. So far I've used the T50, T25, and T20 Torx bit. So I definitely recommend buying you a set if this is a project you plan on tackling, if you don't already have one. All right, so let me put this off to the side. I finally got this piece separated from the housing. And yeah, it took a little bit. So in total, there's 3 tabs that you got to press down. So there's one tab right there, another tab right there, and then one on the opposite side. So like I said, so push down on the tabs, pry up on these tabs right here, on these other ones over here, and just work your way around, and eventually you'll get it to come out. I'll do the same thing over here. Just take your time, try not to break anything, So what I use is this very thin flathead to lift up on these tabs right here. And then what I would do too is I would just stick one of these pry bar tools in there to try to prevent the button piece from coming back and clipping down on the housing. So I'm just gonna work my way around. So I finally got these out and I need to install them over here. So let me go ahead and remove the screws here. It's just extra work. All right, so we got this part out. Let's see if we can push this in. All right, let me take off this one over here. Push this one through the back side. All right, so both of these are in there. So moving on to transferring this over to the new steering wheel. So it looks like this is held in by 3 Torx screws. I'm gonna use a T30 to get those out. I'm gonna first make sure I catch a couple of threads. So if you recall, these are the wires that go and plug into the paddle shifters. So I'm just gonna feed those through. I'm close to the end. I believe this is the last part I need to transfer over. So this piece over to here. I did get one disassembled. So here's what I did. So right now I'm working with the upshift, I guess, paddle shifter, and here's the other one on the other side. So what holds this 2 pieces together is this pin right here. If we take a look at this one right here, you can see that pin right there, and you can also see it, it's right there. So here's what I did. I have this set of picks. Okay, I got this one, and from the bottom up I pushed that pin, and as soon as the pin came out, this assembly came apart. And so this is what it looks like. All right, so I did have to transfer one piece over, which is this white piece. It was over here on the OEM paddle shifter, so I did move that over. And whenever I went to go put these 2 pieces together and slide the pin through, I noticed that I was having a little bit of a hard time trying to get the pin to go through. So what I suggest you to do is, before you attempt to put these 2 pieces together, just slide the pin through these holes a couple of times, okay? Just to make sure that there's enough clearance, just enough clearance for you to be able to put this pin through and hold the assembly together. Now, if you are able to get it through one but not the other, and it could be because of the epoxy, maybe some of the epoxy got in there or whatever they use. So you just kind of have to clean out those holes a little bit and then shove the pin through a couple times. If you're able to get the pin through there, then you should be able to put these 2 pieces back together. All right, so let's work on the other one. Gonna push this through, and the pin should come up on the other side. There we go. And you can just use some pliers, pull it out. There we go. One thing that I noticed with the other paddle shifter is that it doesn't give the same click that these do. Like with these, you can obviously tell whenever you're going through the gears and you're manually upshifting or downshifting, it has a very nice click indicating, okay, yeah, you pressed the button down. With these, I can't, I mean, you can tell a little bit, but it's not as clicky as this one. And I think that might have to do a lot with, you know, what's going on inside of here. While it does look the same, it's not as smooth. And maybe some of these holes too, they're a little rough. So not allowing the paddle shifter itself to move smoothly. So just things to kind of keep in mind. I'm gonna take off this part because I do need to transfer that over here. Okay. And let's put this. All right. So this is the piece that pushes down on this part right here, or that tells the car, hey, it's time to downshift or upshift. All right, so now that I got that in there, like I said, you're gonna wanna push this pin through here a couple of times just to make sure it's able to get through there. Okay, so let's go ahead and install these into the steering wheel. So let me flip this over. All right, so that one clipped in. That one will sit right there. Sorry about that. Okay. All right, so that one's in there. All right, so with those there, let's flip this back over here. They should stay in place. And let's get those Torx screws. All right, so with these are T25. Flip this over, make sure everything's seated properly. Just look over it. Yeah, it looks good to me. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and connect the buttons and install the trim. I think I can just go ahead and install the steering wheel back, but might be a little bit easier for me just to hook everything up right now. So I'm gonna try to install the bottom piece first and then work my way up. So I think it's time to put the steering wheel back in. I'm gonna find the Torx bag for this T50 screw and put some blue Loctite on it, and then just hook everything back up. So this right here will go plugged into the clock spring, and then the other wire that goes and connects to the back of the airbag, I'll just feed it through here. Once I got the steering wheel installed, then I'll put the airbag back in. Yeah. Okay. I got that in, and yeah, I think if I had these out, probably would have been a little bit easier. I think I would have had a little bit more slack, because these are the wires that come together and they go into that big black connector and they plug into the clock spring. So if I didn't have these in, I definitely would have had more slack, but finally got that in. And the next thing is putting this guy back in. I'm gonna put Loctite on the threads and then put this back in. So the torque spec for this is 22 foot-pounds. So it's kind of crazy that it only is torqued down to 22 foot-pounds, and I struggled to get it off. I had to get a breaker bar, but that just goes to show that with Loctite, you know, it really keeps it in place. So definitely put Loctite on this. All right, just got to torque that down. Now time to put the airbag back in. So blue goes with blue. Okay, make sure to push this down to lock it in place. And this one. Cool, airbag's in. So I think now you just gotta hook up the battery back up. And take this off. Man, that looks good. Okay. Gotta make sure the horn works. Let's see. Okay, it does work. So there we have it, guys. Dude, I freaking love this. Looks so good. All right, so I'm gonna just drive it real quick, make sure things work. Let me just show you guys that the paddle shifters do work. So right now I put it in manual mode. So there you can see it that it drops into third, and if I press the downshift again, there we go. Now we're in second. Let me upshift. Okay, now we're in third. Again, now we're in fourth. So paddle shifters are working. So hopefully this helps y'all out. If y'all are looking to get a steering wheel, it doesn't matter, carbon fiber or a different kind of steering wheel. Hopefully this video helps you out. I do think I'm gonna order some more steering wheels, so if there's any other SS people that actually want some, let me know, hit me up. But anyways, let me know what y'all think. Catch y'all on the next one.